So how does a four-language speaking, um, six-instrument playing Southern California homecoming queen end up becoming one of the most recognized entertainers in mature media?
Right.
And then, completely pivot to modeling cardigans for a JCPenney catalog before just quietly retiring at 22.
It sounds completely made up, honestly.
It really does.
Yeah.
But today, we are bringing you along for another deep dive into what has to be the ultimate paradoxical career.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are looking at the life of Andie Valentino. She's someone who stepped into a highly controversial, intensely pressurized field, skyrocketed to the very top of her specific niche, and then she just completely walked away.
And it's a fascinating trajectory because it completely shatters the illusion of, how we expect a career in adult entertainment to actually function.
Right, because the standard narrative is so different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Usually the public narrative assumes a performer in that space is kind of trapped by circumstance, right? Like they're slowly losing control of their image as the industry demands more and more from them.
Yeah, that's what you always hear.
But what we are actually exploring today with you is a masterclass in extreme agency.
I love that.
We're looking at the psychology of attention, the logistics of creating these firewalled identities, and honestly, the ultimate power of treating your public persona like a depreciating corporate asset.
Okay, liquidating the persona before the market devalues your personal boundaries. That framing is brilliant.
It really fits her story perfectly.
It does, but to understand how she developed that level of strategic detachment, we really have to look at how she was forged.
Yeah, we have to go back to the beginning.
Right, so she was born Andresa Stephanie Malilli on February 1st, 1988 in Newport Beach, California. She's of Italian and French descent.
And Newport Beach, I mean, that projects a very specific vibe.
Oh, totally. A wealthy, all-American coastal aesthetic. And initially, she fit that public image perfectly.
Right, the classic California girl.
Exactly. She was a cheerleader, she was a homecoming queen, but the reality behind closed doors was incredibly fractured.
Yeah, the contrast is stark.
Her parents separated when she was just 4 years old. And get this, by the time she was 12, she was working as a waitress in the exact same nightclub where her mother worked as a hostess.
And that detail, I mean, that right there is the skeleton key to understanding her entire future career.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely. Think about the cognitive mapping of a 12-year-old navigating a nightclub environment.
It's hard to even picture.
Right, because she is not just passing out drinks, she is actively decoding transactional adult spaces.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, though,
Sure.
because calling it decoding transactional spaces makes it sound like she was a 12-year-old anthropologist taking notes on a clipboard, you know?
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but
Like her upbringing sounds like two completely different coming-of-age movie scripts just spliced together.
yeah, it really does.
But she was a middle schooler in a nightclub. Isn't it far more likely that this was just deeply destabilizing?
Oh, I'm not denying the difficulty of it.
Yeah. I mean, a child in that environment isn't usually strategizing. They're surviving. They're being subjected to adult behaviors that force this unnatural and often traumatic early maturation.
You are absolutely right to point out the inherent danger there. I'm certainly not calling it a healthy internship.
Right. Definitely not an internship.
But the coping mechanisms developed in survival situations, they often become the very tools a person uses to assert control later in life.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
To survive a nightclub at 12, you must develop profound emotional detachment. You have to learn how to read a room, how to recognize predatory behavior, and how to separate your true self from the persona required to just navigate that space safely.
Wow. Yeah, you'd have to build up some serious walls.
Exactly. And by the time she moved to Guatemala at 16 to live with her father, where she actually debuted as a dancer.
Wait, at 16?
Yeah, at 16. And then she returned to California to do some early modeling work for her father. So by then, she possessed a psychological armor that most adults never even develop.
So when she officially enters the mature entertainment industry in 2006, at the age of 18, she isn't this stereotypical, naive teenager just falling into a controversial field.
Not at all.
She's more like a strategist stepping onto a battlefield she already fully understands.
Precisely. The typical narrative treats a transition into mature media at 18 as this sudden fall from grace.
Right, like it's a huge shock.
But looking at her specific timeline, there was no sudden shock. She was already entirely desensitized to non-traditional adult-centric environment.
Because she had basically spent a third of her life in them.
Exactly.
And her entry into the industry wasn't some solo act of rebellion either. She was actually encouraged to do it by her boyfriend at the time.
Which is a detail that becomes very important later.
Oh, massively important. So she starts out doing figure modeling for platforms with mature audiences, operating under various aliases.
Like Andie Valentino, Andie.
Right, before she finally solidifies the Andie Valentino brand.
Yeah.
And she built this highly specific, aggressively marketed physical brand.
She knew exactly what she was doing.
She was petite, like 4'11", 106 pounds, striking green eyes, brunette hair, and these specific measurements that her fan base just became completely obsessed with.
And, in a digital landscape flooded with endless content, establishing a discernible brand is incredibly difficult.
I can imagine.
But she managed to curate an aesthetic that resonated immediately. And it wasn't just about physical attributes. It was about the packaging of an archetype.
Yeah, she was very deliberate about what kind of content she produced.
She specialized almost exclusively in solo performances, specialized fetish content, like foot videos, for instance, and women-only collaborations.
So she found a highly profitable niche that allowed her to maintain really tight control over her physical boundaries.
Exactly, while simultaneously maximizing her visibility.
And the visibility was just massive. By May 2007, at just 19 years old, she's named Penthouse Pet of the Month.
At 19, that's incredible.
A month later, she's a hustler, honey. She becomes the first ever Twisties Hottie of the Week.
She was everywhere in that space.
But here's where it gets really interesting. This is the paradox that completely fascinates me.
Okay, let's hear it.
You have this on-camera persona, this petite, highly curated woman whose entire public existence is designed to cater to an audience's specific fantasy, right?
Right.
But hidden just behind the camera is a woman who speaks 4 languages and plays 6 instruments.
It's wild to think about.
Was she just playing a highly curated character for the audience? I mean, why does someone with that level of intense intellectual discipline choose this specific avenue?
It's a phenomenal question, and it speaks directly to a piece of research we are analyzing today for you guys.
Yes, the biology of fame source material.
Right. The author deconstructs exactly why young, highly capable people choose this vocation.
Because it's not what people usually assume.
Not at all. Audiences often fantasize, or really, they have a psychological need to believe that a performer is driven by a purely biological, insatiable desire for intimacy.
Right. The fantasy is that they're doing this because they just can't help themselves. They need it.
Exactly. It bolsters the illusion that the performer needs the audience to watch them. But the research strips that parasocial illusion away entirely.
So what's the actual reality?
Well, a woman who looks like Andie Valentino, armed with the charisma to navigate complex adult environments, could find intimacy anywhere, at any time, simply by walking into a room.
Right, she doesn't lack options.
She doesn't need to fly across the country, stand under bright studio lights, and perform for a camera crew to satisfy a biological drive. She chose the camera for the spotlight.
So it's about empowerment.
Yes, the primary driver highlighted in this research is the pursuit of attention, validation, and the profound empowerment that comes from commanding an audience's gaze.
So applying the discipline required to learn 4 languages to the curation of a media persona is actually a perfectly logical pivot.
It makes complete sense when you look at it that way.
She's treating her own image like an instrument. She knows exactly what notes to play to elicit the maximum response from millions of people while keeping her actual intellectual self completely shielded from public consumption.
It is the ultimate assertion of control. She is monetizing the audience's projection of who they think she is.
It's brilliant, honestly. And before we move on to how all this control led to a massive clash, if you're enjoying the vibe, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends. It really helps us out.
Yes, please do.
Okay, so she has the fame, she has the attention, she is fully in control of this highly lucrative brand.
Right.
But in 2007, that tight control hits a massive friction point. And this brings us to the perfect match incident.
Yes. This is a crucial moment.
Let's look at the mechanics of this, because the cognitive dissonance here is just staggering.
It really is.
So Andie had a strict rule, solo and women-only content. That was her boundary. But she wanted to negotiate better pay.
Which is fair.
So she agrees to perform her first and what would become her only mixed-gender scene with a male performer named Wade Barrett.
And from a purely logistical standpoint, it was a calculated business decision.
Right, she was maximizing her value.
In that industry, Mixed-gender performances historically command higher compensation because they appeal to a broader demographic. She leveraged her existing popularity to secure a much higher premium for crossing a previously established boundary.
Okay, but was it actually a smart, calculated risk? Because the fallout from that single business decision completely destroyed her personal life.
Well, yes, the personal fallout was massive.
I mean, her boyfriend, the exact same boyfriend who actively encouraged her to enter the adult entertainment industry in the first place.
The irony is rich.
He becomes furious about the specific scene. He suddenly draws a hard moral line and they break up over it.
Yeah, he couldn't handle it.
So to you as the listener, I have to ask, how can someone push their partner into a highly publicized, controversial field, but suddenly draw the line at a specific business decision made for financial gain? If your business decision alienates the person closest to you, it sounds more like a gross miscalculation to me.
What's fascinating here is that it might seem like a miscalculation if we assume the boyfriend was operating rationally.
Okay, fair point. He probably wasn't.
But we have to analyze the profound hypocrisy and psychological fragility of partners adjacent to this industry.
Fragility is a good word for it.
Think about his initial encouragement. Why push your partner into a controversial field? Often it's for the proximity to the money, the status, and the thrill of being the one who kind of owns the fantasy everyone else is paying to look at.
Wow. Yeah. That's a dark but probably very accurate way to look at it.
As long as she was doing solo or women-only content, he could compartmentalize it. It wasn't a direct threat to his masculinity.
Ah, I see. Because the moment she performs with another male professional, the illusion shatters.
Exactly. The introduction of a tangible professional male counterpart makes the reality of the work undeniable.
It's too real for him, Len.
Right, it's no longer just an abstract digital performance. It's a physical reality that directly threatens his primary status in her life. His ego couldn't handle the very reality he encouraged her to monetize.
That is incredibly illuminating. Just imagine you are 19 years old. You are making phenomenal money. You are on the cover of magazines, but the person who supposedly supports you abandons you the moment you optimize your earning potential.
It's a lot of pressure for a teenager.
For most 19-year-olds, that would trigger a complete spiral. They would either collapse and apologize, begging to be taken aback, or they would aggressively rebel and do 100 more mixed-gender scenes just to spite the ex.
But Andie does neither, which is what elevates her story from a standard industry biography to a literal masterclass in extreme boundary setting.
She goes in a completely different direction.
In a field where performers are constantly subjected to immense pressure by studios, directors, and fans to escalate their content to stay relevant, Andie used the emotional wreckage of that breakup as a catalyst.
A catalyst to do what?
To solidify her boundaries. She didn't escalate. She contracted. She instituted an ironclad personal boundary, vowing never to do another mixed-gender scene again.
She closed the door, she looked at the higher paycheck and the emotional cost attached to it, and essentially said, the math doesn't work for me anymore.
She proved she was ultimately in control of her own product.
And what is truly wild about this timeline is that at the exact same time she's drawing these rigid defensive lines in mature media, she is successfully infiltrating mainstream corporate America.
This part is still hard to believe.
In 2007, the same year as all this drama, she appears as a model in a JCPenney catalog.
Talk about a pivot.
How does a mature media star legally, logistically, and publicly secure a suburban catalog contract at the same time?
It is a stunning feat of corporate compartmentalization.
Truly.
Today, with advanced algorithms and facial recognition, maintaining two entirely separate public profiles is nearly impossible.
You'd be outed in a day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even in 2007, the internet was permanent. To pull that off, she had to treat herself not as a single individual, but as a holding company with distinct subsidiaries.
I love that analogy.
Twisty's Hottie Andie was one product line. Girl Next Door cardigan model was another. She firewalled those identities, ensuring the branding of one did not bleed into the other.
It completely dismantles the idea that she was a victim of her circumstances. She was a chameleon, dictating exactly how different segments of society were allowed to perceive her.
Absolutely.
But maintaining that level of a corporate firewall between two completely polarized identities takes immense psychological energy.
It has to be exhausting.
And that brings us to the breaking point. Because setting a boundary is one thing. Enforcing it daily against an industry that views boundaries as obstacles is something else entirely.
And the industry pressure was relentless.
Hmm.
Her popularity only continued to surge.
She is a massive star.
She received nominations at the 2008 and 2009 AVN Awards, specifically for her women-only and solo work. She was recognized as elite talent.
But they still wanted more.
Right, because the economic reality of the industry remained. The highest profit margins for studios are often found in mixed-gender content. In a 2010 interview, she explicitly detailed the continuous, exhausting pressure from producers and directors to recreate the financial success of her one perfect match scene.
They wanted the very content she had sworn off.
They wouldn't let it go.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Because she executed the most powerful move she had left. She retired.
She just walked away.
Around 2010 at the incredibly young age of 22. And I want to pause here and address the timeline because researching this era of the internet is honestly like trying to nail jelly to a wall.
Oh, the conflicting sources are everywhere.
Biographical data in controversial fields is heavily mythologized. For instance, if you look at the Italian Wikipedia page, it claims she married a Canadian actor at age 18, had a son the following year, and then had twins in 2009.
Which is a whole different narrative.
Right. Meanwhile, English records suggest she entered the industry at 18 with the boyfriend, broke up at 19 over the Wade Barrett scene, and retired at 22 to get married and start a family.
And the discrepancies in the dates are almost certainly a deliberate feature, not a bug.
Really? You think she planned that?
When your entire career is built on a heavily curated public persona, obscuring the exact milestones of your private life is the ultimate defense mechanism.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
Whether she was secretly balancing a marriage and a growing family during her peak years, or whether she cleanly exited the industry specifically to start that family, the core psychological action remains identical.
Which is what?
She prioritized the reality of her personal life over the fiction of her persona. She prioritized her growing family and her personal boundaries over continued fame.
I look at her career and I don't see someone who faded away or couldn't hack it. I compare it to a star athlete retiring at their absolute peak, rather than slowly fading out or compromising their values just to stay in the game.
That's a really accurate comparison.
She didn't join the industry to become a lifer. She dropped in, executed a highly specific mission to secure financial independence and massive validation. And the moment the battlefield conditions required her to compromise her personal safety protocols, she extracted herself.
She liquidated the asset.
She absolutely did. She liquidated the Andie Valentino asset before she became a casualty of the industry's demands. It takes incredible fortitude to leave that much money and global adulation on the table.
It requires a profound redefinition of achievement, really. We are socially conditioned to believe that a successful career requires decades of continuous linear growth.
Right. You climb the corporate ladder until you are physically forced to stop.
But Andie's narrative fundamentally challenges that. True success is not defined by longevity or infinite scaling. It is defined by the ability to secure your objective and possessing the radical self-awareness to recognize when an environment is demanding more than you are willing to sell.
She sold a fantasy, but she refused to sell her boundaries.
Well said.
To recap this incredible, wild journey, we began with a 12-year-old girl learning the cold mechanics of adult transactional spaces in a nightclub.
Such a heavy start.
She evolves into a multilingual homecoming queen who leverages those early lessons to conquer a highly controversial media landscape.
She builds a massive, lucrative brand.
Sets an unbreakable boundary when the industry demands more of her, runs a dual life as a mainstream catalog model, and then by 22, she liquidates her public persona entirely to focus on her family as a young mother.
Leaving fans in the industry completely bewildered.
She walked away from it all exactly on her own terms.
It is an intensely powerful narrative about agency, and it leaves us with a final provocative thought to mull over.
I'd love to hear it.
We often define a successful career by longevity and constant growth. But if you achieve exactly what you set out to do, whether that is financial stability, mastering a skill, or reaching a specific title, and then you have the courage to walk away the exact moment your industry demands you compromise your core boundaries, isn't that the most powerful definition of success there is?
It really makes you think.
Where in your own life or career might you need to draw a hard boundary, even if it means walking away from the table?
Sometimes the bravest move isn't fighting to stay in the room. It's realizing you already got what you came for and choosing to walk out the door. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.